I'm Mark. He's Brian, Mark 2.0. We welcome Joshua Schultz. Joshua, welcome to the podcast. Start off by talking about Americana. You have to.
Okay. Nice. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. So,
Sure.
Americana is a neo-Western film. The way I kind of describe it, it's kind of like if you took Yellowstone and Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
It's about this military vet who lives in the desert in this sort of forgotten town next to an Indian reservation, and they have a big problem with children going missing and being kidnapped into human trafficking. And but in the Americana short, we decided to make it very simple and minimalistic. We decided to just tell a story about a father and him dealing with the loss of his daughter. Um, and then, some things happen, some stuff unfolds, and there's a little bit of a plot twist at the end. And anyway, so that's Americana. And the idea was to make this short film, which we can then utilize to get funding to make the full movie. Yeah.
Wow. Americana, everybody. Please, I beg you to see this thing. It's brilliant. Let's start first with the actors themselves. Josh, I think you did an amazing job. Everybody, Josh is in this thing, and he does an insanely great job.
Oh,
Thank
by
you.
far.
How did you get to be such a great actor, Josh?
Well, thank you. I am kind of obsessive when it comes to anything I do in art. And so I decided I'd come up with a story and I decided I wanted to play the part, but my buddy was like, well, how are you going to play the part? You're 300 pounds. So the first thing I did was lose 130 pounds for, to get into the role. But I learned about the character. Like I went and hung out with motorcycle guys that were similar. I started doing military training so that my workout routine was the same as that military branch, so that the muscles were formed in the same way. I interviewed vets that were similar to the character, and I just kind of decided to approach the film in a way of just being the character, like living as the character for a long time, so that when it came time to film, because I also had to direct it, I could easily just be the character and I knew everything about him. And I meet other actors that can like go in and out of character really easy, but the way I kind of do it is I like become the character. For example, we're working on the story for the movie, and my character needs to be a Navy SEAL vet. So I met one of the top Navy SEALs out here, and last week I started Navy SEAL training. So I'm like going shooting. I'm going to learn how to clear houses, so that all of my movements are so drilled and so a part of me that by the time we shoot the movie, it's realistic for the character. Instead of an actor trying to pretend to do all the movements, I want the muscle memory of here's a guy that's done it 100,000 times, and it's just part of him, so that you can see that in the character when I play the role.
You brilliantly conveyed that. I saw the salute they gave at the beginning. I said, "Oh, he's going to war or something." Was my first thing, so I instantly thought military.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
instantly did go to the military thought, like right there. Um, and the other actors, how many other actors? They were all. Where'd you find them? Oh my gosh!
So we got really lucky. So the girl who plays my mom, she's a James Bond girl. She was in the movie Octopussy. Uh,
Wow.
so she lives in Arizona actually.
Ah,
Oh,
She's amazing. Like I found some old footage of her in the Bond film, and she's
oh,
like
please
this.
put in a good word for us.
I will.
yeah.
I will.
Wow, 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 wow.
She's great. She's like in her 70s and still just absolutely gorgeous. And then we had the meth head who is in the trailer. She stars in a show called Shameless. Her name's Ruby Modine, and she's
Oh,
been in.
yeah. I've
She
been on
star.
Shameless a few times. I mean, just in the background, but
Oh, cool. Yeah, she dates Lip in the show.
oh,
Um,
okay.
and then she was in the movie Happy Death Day 1 and 2, um, as one of the top figures. In fact, her dad starred in Full Metal Jacket, and he stars in Stranger Things. A guy named Matthew Modine.
Oh
Um,
my, that's her
Yeah,
dad.
wow.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love Matthew. I've seen him just my whole life.
he's a legend. Yeah,
Wow.
we got lucky because he promoted our film.
She
Uh,
was really good,
she's so
intimidating. I
good.
was just like, oh my goodness. And
I,
and that guy and her boyfriend, who was that? Who was that guy?
his name is Ty.
Mm.
I can't. It's funny. He just texted me. I can't totally um, pronounce his last name. It's very long, but he was in Hawaii Five O. He's from
Wow.
Hawaii. Incredible actor. In fact, he contacted me and he donated to the film and he said, "If you need a guy to hold a mic, get coffee, whatever you need, I'm there." And I was like,
Mm.
"Do you want to play meth head?"
Oh,
Awesome.
oh, perfect.
And he was like, "Fuck
You
yeah!" And
chose him
then,
because he volunteered. Yeah. Well, he was handsome too.
well, I'd seen him act. I knew he was good. And then Ruby, I had seen her because the character that she had to play was it was very tough. Like a lot of people, I think would go cartoonish with it, and I wanted her to have a more human approach to it. And so I remember I called one actress and I was like, "Hey, do you want to play a meth head mom who sells their kid to sex traffickers?" And they were like, "No." Um, and so
Yeah,
I
I mean,
cast that person as a bartender, and then I called Ruby, and I just knew she would kill the role. And so I was like, "Do you want to play a meth head mom who sells her kid to sex traffickers?" And she was like,
mm,
"Tell me more." And so I went into detail about the character because I actually had spent time when I was younger with meth heads, helping to get some meth heads off of meth, and it's a very disgusting, terrible drug. And so when I was building their characters, I had a lot of experience with meth heads, and so I think she liked that. And I realized like a meth head, this mom is still a human, still a person, but she's been overcome by this chemical that's creating a new personality, which I called the chemical personality. And so I wanted the internal side of her to still be a mom, kind of at war with herself, who, was doing terrible things. But anyway, so she killed it. And then there is the computer guy. His name's Rich Paul. He was in Sons of Anarchy, and he's in a new show called The Terminal List with Chris Pratt.
Oh, we know the
oh, here
terminal
we
list
go.
well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love that show. But I met him at a party, and he's a real military vet. And actually, it's funny that the meth head guy and him and I were all hanging at the party, and we were just chatting, and I was telling him about my film. And so when I got the green light to make the film, I instantly thought of Rich, and I texted him, and I was like, "Do you want to play this like military vet who hunts traffickers?" And he was like, "Fuck yeah!" Um, and then um, the guy who plays my brother, his name's Travis Mills. He is actually a really famous singer. He has a band called Girlfriends. He has like Travis Barker from Blink-182 on his drums, and he's got
Huge
his own
fan.
TV show on MTV. Yeah, so
Wow. Wow.
Travis is like makes great music, and we met because his label had hired me to photograph his band, and great actor. In fact, he was on Good Morning America to promote his new MTV show, and then got rushed out to my set to play my brother, and so we had to arrange the whole filming for that, and then the girl who's singing in the bar, who runs the bar, her name's Haley Reinhart. She's on from American Idol. Um, and she had a really famous song. She did an Elvis cover for "Can't Help Falling in Love with You" that has like 4 billion streams or something. It like
Wow.
blew up. They played it at the Super Bowl. Um, God, who else? Oh, my co-star Renine Pedro. I needed an Indigenous actress, and I had originally an Indigenous actress from a TV show I like, but at the last moment they had to leave town to go shoot a movie. And so I recasted that role in like 4 days, and she came in and killed it. And the sheriffs. So one sheriff is a guy named Zach Sudfeld, who is actually one of my business partners, and he played for the Patriots. He was a big NFL star. He played with Tom Brady,
Wow.
and he retired and wanted to get into filmmaking. So he was one sheriff, and the other sheriff was an actor named Andrew Walker, who was a big Hallmark actor. Um, I know I'm forgetting important people.
You know a lot of really
You
famous
really
people.
do.
Well, I was lucky because I've been photographing and directing music videos for years, so I was lucky that I had a lot of artists that trusted me because they had, I made good quality stuff for them, and so
Well, that
they'd
part
all.
ain't luck. You made quality stuff. I mean, if you say you're lucky, did you get into that in a lucky way? How did you end up doing that?
I
How did
kind
you
of
get so lucky?
in a lucky way. I would say that's funny because you say luck, but if I knew the amount of work and pain and suffering that I was going to go through, I might have chosen a different profession. Uh, but
Too late.
the way I got into it is I had a normal job working for a business. I was a business consultant, wore a suit, no beard. Um, I wasn't happy, so I quit, and and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. I knew I wanted to be an artist in some way, and I met this guy who was a photographer and a director, and he worked with some very big people like Paul McCartney and U2, and so I lied to him and I said, I'm an amazing producer. I didn't even know what a producer was. And he was like, great, I need to produce a music video for this band called Incubus. Um,
Oh,
Wow.
so my first project was
how many times did
producing,
I sing them in a karaoke bar? Oh, wow. I love them.
but I barely knew the band. So I produced this music video and I'm literally Googling things as he's asking me, like, I need this person. I'm like, I know the best guy. And I'm like, what is this? And but because I have business background, I knew that it's not fake it until you make it. The real saying or secret to success is always deliver. And so I learned how to do the job. I did it well, and I saved the production a lot of money. And we made a great music video. For example, like we were gonna shoot an underwater scene, and Fox Studios wanted like I think 20 grand or something. And I went to my old high school water polo and I got them to give us their pool with an underwater viewing area for like 300 bucks.
Wow.
Um, and then we shot the whole sequence at my old high school. um, and then a week later, he had lost a camera guy for a project, and he was like, "Hey, I got to go shoot this documentary with this band called the Band of Horses, and one of the Beach Boys, a guy named Al Jardine from the Beach Boys, in the Beach Boys studio, 6 hours north in a place called Big Sur. Do you want to come?" And I went and I learned how to use the camera. So the first time I ever touched the camera was shooting a Beach Boy and then this Band of Horses. And then after that, the director reviewed all the footage and he called me and I was like, I'm found out. Like they're gonna find out I'm an imposter. I'm caught. And he was like, "Your footage is incredible. You should pursue photography because you have this natural eye for composition and movement." And so then I went and photographed a model I was dating at the time. This was before Instagram, and I posted the photos on Facebook, and I got a bunch of bookings. And then a year later, I was shooting for Rolling Stone and Vanity Fair and all these magazines back when they were relevant. Um, and then I started after Rolling Stone, I started shooting a lot of bands. Um, either doing the press or album covers. Um, and my favorite was shooting bands because I love music and they're really fun to work with. And then from there, I got into directing music videos, and I had 7 music videos become the number one trending on YouTube in the world.
Gee.
Um,
How
and
many?
then seven,
7.
7 in 1 year. Um, and then, which was
Whoa.
2019, and then the pandemic hit, and then everything stopped. And then during the pandemic is when I lost all the weight and I wrote the script for this film because I always wanted to make movies. And what I learned in the past is like if you want to do something, don't ask for permission, don't rely on anyone, just do it. And so I wrote the script, I got funding, I recruited all the people, and then we went and made the short film, which out of anything I'd ever done in my life was definitely the most painful, hardest, most arduous thing I'd ever done. And it was so like there were so many things that almost destroyed it. Like we had 2 hours to put the film into this film festival in Texas, and I still didn't have the ending worked out. And in the last hour, I finally got the perfect edit, and the ending went from the worst scene in the film to my favorite scene. And then I sent it off, and now we're trying to work on the movie, but it was like it was hell. Like I was getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning to edit all day into the night, and uh, anyway, so it's luck in terms of certain things, but I think if you want to be an artist, you really need to understand that you're not going to have any other life. Like you have to truly enjoy and love what you're doing because you're going to work your ass off all the time. And yeah.
It was good editing. And you know what I said to Mark? I said, what he left out, what he didn't do was brilliant.
I
He
thought so
just
too. Yeah.
I thought I was like, oh, they're gonna go get him, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's really not even necessary. I mean, I was so fired up at that point. I'm like,
yeah,
let's
ended
go get
right
him.
there.
I'm like, whoa, okay, calm down. This is just like, and I'm like, but this would make an amazing, especially if the guys from Chris Pratt is there. No, I'm just kidding, because I'm so all about the military just going in and just fucking ending that shit forever.
Well, what's cool is the way we're structuring the movie without giving too much away. It's a little bit of a love letter to America because you have this town, you have military vets, you have the Indian reservation nearby, you have the cops, you have motorcycle gang, you have all these different people, walks of life, who all have different opinions. And I don't want to make the movie political at all. The real message is like, no matter what anyone's background is, they all can get on board with the fact that like kidnapping kids for sex trafficking is not okay. And in the end, there's sort of this unity of people having to like come together and banding together and becoming a strong force in order to overcome the bigger evil, which is these traffickers. And every character has their character arcs, and I'm showing a lot of military vets in the film. In fact, I'm going to put real vets and real, Navy SEALs in there. But I don't want it to be one thing. Like the military vets are going to be these victims that are all wanting to kill themselves. There will be some that are suffering, but then there'll also be vets that are like badasses and doing great because they're all just humans that are trying to live their life with, the trauma and the things that they experienced. And in a way, that's sort of a message to everyone because, like, we're all trying to survive. Life is fucking hard. It's tough. And really, we should be banding together and helping each other survive because just the fact that we, make it through this life is a miracle. And then on top of that, if you learn things like warfare and things that are designed to be a protector, to go out and save people that need saving. I think the military guys I met are incredible. For example, I'm in Florida right now, and I've had a pretty good experience, but I ran into some insecure bros in trucks who were road raging with me and like cutting me off and trying to get me into a fight. Ironically, I'm a lot bigger than them, but the Navy SEAL guy, one thing he trained me was your job as a protector is to de-escalate things. So you need to avoid being in a fight, which I hated because my ego was like, I wanted to make these guys wrong and yell at them, and I was just trying to de-escalate. And but then you also learn, like you said, you avoid a street fight at all costs. Like you run away is your best defense, get out of it, whatever you can, because no one really wins in a street fight. But if you're in a situation where you have no choice, then they teach you how to take it from 0 to 10 in a second, and then the fight's over. But their
Smart.
mentality is not this like ego driven. It's really this controlled, even mindset. Like they were telling me, like outbursts and anger is a sign of weakness. So you learn how to manage that within yourself because, you're a protector. So say in this film you have a little girl that's been trafficked. It's more about strategy and planning and how do you take down the evil and not let them utilize your emotions, for them to break you down. Anyway, the training has been interesting because I thought I was just gonna like learn how to shoot guns and like kick ass, but it's a lot of mental as well.
I can't wait to see the full-blown movie. That's going to be so good. Oh my gosh. I want to see it already. So, congratulations. You say you lost 130 pounds. Like it was nothing, the movie was the hard part, So how'd you do that? How'd you finally say that's it, man? And what'd you do to lose all that weight?
So when I decided I was going to do the film, I also wanted to, change my whole life and accomplish all the things I ever wanted. So first thing I did is I found a trainer in LA, really great guy named Peter. He owns a gym called Pharos Athletic Club. And I was interviewing people trying to figure out who I wanted to train with. And, I was like, well, I want to look like, Jason Momoa. Like, I like his shape. And he was like, oh, I'm Jason Momoa's trainer.
Oh, boy.
And I was like, okay, I'm going with you. And the biggest lesson he taught me was that 90% of all of the health shit you hear about is all bullshit. Like 90% of the stuff that is being pushed out there is just companies trying to sell products. And unfortunately, a lot of it will create an early death. Like one day I want to do a documentary just about the Food Administration, like how many millions of people die from bad information. Like me, I was 300 pounds, but I was doing all these things that I thought were going to make me healthy, but obviously I wasn't healthy. And I had gone to a different trainer for years and wasn't getting results. And I just happened to meet a guy that knew exactly the truth. And first thing he told me was, if you can kill it or if it comes from the ground, you can eat it. But basically, stop eating anything man-made, because your body and stuff is very, for thousands of years has been eating real foods that it recognizes and it can break down. And then my calorie intake and a thing called macros. Macros is how much protein, carbs, and fat you consume every day. And I have an app where I log my food and it tells me a percentage every day. So he just had me monitor my calories. 50% of everything I ate was protein, and then it was carbs and fat. And then I worked out with him every day. And it was like the first 4 months, I lost 50 pounds. My body finally was like, okay, I'm getting the energy I need. I could process this food and you're moving. And, eventually I lost 100 pounds. And then I lost 130. Now I'm trying to lose 20 more, but the last 20 is like as hard as the first 100 or harder. But
that's fantastic though. You eat protein, vegetables and fruit, water, exercise. That's it.
Yeah, I have a gallon of water a day. I eat steak and chicken and fish and a lot of sweet potatoes and lots of vegetables. And I ironically don't go that hard. Like I don't sprint or anything. Like I go for a lot of walks. And I go to the gym and I lift and do push-ups and ab stuff. And eventually I'll try to get into more running just for the fun of it. But and it's consistency. Like you just constantly are healthy every day and your body will change, and pushing yourself a bit. Like I'm trying to work off my holiday bad food. So my body will get tired and I'll push myself a little bit more. And you do that enough and your body will go, oh, this is the new normal. I'm going to start allocating more energy to him. And then all of a sudden I have more energy every day. It's really your body wants to survive and it kind of wants to be lazy. So it's just pushing. Also, there's a book. You ever heard of David Goggins? He's a Navy SEAL that anyway, he has an audio book called You Can't Hurt Me. So
Mm.
every time I wanted to give up, I would listen to his book, and he's like insane. He lost like 100 pounds in 3 months and has a world record for like pull-ups and goes through all this crazy, terrible, painful shit. So when I listen to
Oh,
him, I'm
dark
like,
skin,
oh,
bald.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I love him. He talks about suffering.
yeah. He
I
always says,
love
stay
him.
hard. Yeah,
You have to suffer. Yeah.
yeah. So
Oh
he got me through a
gosh.
lot of it.
Yes, I do know him. Oh yeah, he's great. He's great.
Yeah, I'm listening to his second book right now, actually. So
That's
I could
awesome.
lose the last 20 pounds.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, he is tough. He is tough. I love listening to him. So, what were your parents like? Did they, I mean, is this, what did you do? Did you always get into all this movie stuff from the get-go? You knew you wanted to do this pretty young and stuff?
Yeah, so it's funny because part of my childhood, I guess, influenced the film. When I was young, my mom was dating a motorcycle racer, and we had a motorcycle gang constantly coming through our house, which
Whoa.
we lived in Washington and Spokane, so I think they were the Hells Angels, but I'm too young to remember. I just remember there was all those biker guys over, um, and at one point my mom just took off. Like her and her boyfriend took off for months. And so I was being raised by these motorcycle gang guys. And um, they didn't take me to school. So I didn't go to school for like a year. But they would teach me weird stuff like, this is how you hang posters in prison, which I guess they use toothpaste and they put it on the poster and they put it on. And I remember one time I was in the backyard with my siblings and like cops busted through the fence. Uh, and they were chasing a guy on a bike. And anyway,
Oh
so
shit, this sounds like guys I hung out with. Wow. Wow,
yeah,
they're really good parents though, Josh. You turned out so good.
well, I think I was on my way to that lifestyle. And then when I was about 12 or 13, my grandma lived in LA. She was a producer. So she moved me to LA and put me with a tutor because I was a year behind school and sent me to art school. And I started learning, drawing and dancing. So I went from like, you're on the street and you get in these fights with bullies and, motorcycle gangs and survival to now you're learning about shading and composition and different paint strokes. And
Hmm.
I was the
You must
biggest.
have appreciated that very much.
It was
Get
hard
out
at first, but I
to
I
calm down. Yeah.
I fell in love with art. And anyway, then years later, when I started making the motorcycle movie, I just felt like I had a lot of love for both worlds. Like there are things that I really enjoy about being free and I love the brotherhood of a motorcycle, maybe not a gang, but a group. Like just when I ride with my guys in LA, there's this almost military aspect of like everybody looks out for each other. And, you know, in LA as an artist, life can become very lonely. Um, and so having people in your life that truly care about you and have your back, I think actually it's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day. They're asking me like, how do you survive as an artist in LA? And I said, it's a lot like being in the military, but when you go into, and I've never been in the military, but just from what I've been learning about strategy and how these guys think, it's how I relate as an artist because you're going into a town where a lot of people are hustling and they would gladly kill you or destroy you or rip you apart or take down your empire just to get ahead. And you have like some of the snakiest evil people, but everyone is smiling and has to pretend like everything's great. And so I found the best way to be successful is to have the best strategy. You have to find people that aren't really your friends and be able to predict their behavior, and then have great people in your life to fall back on when you have hard times, and produce art and constantly market and put yourself out there. Um, anyway, there was just things that I liked about the motorcycle community and the military community and and even my friends in LA, and I kind of found a common thread amongst all of them, it's sort of this um, brotherhood or family unit in order to survive hell. Anyway, I think I went on a
What got you out of LA?
Oh,
Because I
that's
was in
cool. That's
LA for
kind of
10 years. Why did you leave?
So I was born and raised in LA. I spent a little bit of time in Washington when I was with my mom, but I left because I shot the short film in April, and as soon as I shot the short film, I was like, I don't want to do anything but make movies. Um, which means like I don't even want to go shoot projects that pay me so I pay my bills. So I was like, I'm gonna just get rid of my place and move to Florida where I have family and I could just work full time on editing. And then I also drove across America and met with people in different states in the movie industry. Um, and I just needed a mental break because I don't know what happened, but when the pandemic hit, it seemed like a lot of people just lost their minds. Like murder went up 300%, crime went through the roof. For some reason, they're just letting everybody out of jail. And um, I don't like to get too involved in politics because,
No, neither do we,
um,
but we get
yeah,
where you're
because
coming from. We get
yeah, we're
exactly
gonna
where you're
agree
coming
with
from.
you though. Definitely.
yeah, I only know what I experienced. And I mean, for the first time ever, I was getting like somebody try to jump me in Hollywood.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
Another guy followed me, and um, I have all of a sudden I had to have a taser every time I walk my dog. Um, and as an
And this was in
artist,
Hollywood, or where was it?
that was in Hollywood. But even like every time you got on the freeway, like I remember one time a guy cut me off, so I honked at him. So he followed
Wow.
me for miles, threatening to murder my family, and
Did he?
um, I ended up pulling up to the cop station, and
I never seen
uh,
anything like that over there. Wow.
yeah, but it was like constant. It was literally like I remember a lot of my friends said that it seemed like people had forgot common decency, and I don't know. I have a theory that sometimes when there are politics and things and people are pinned against each other, there's a certain amount of hate generated. And but most importantly, as an artist, I just felt like I needed an environment that was very uh, not charged up and full of anger and
Hmm.
hate in order to create. So I came to Florida and like I live next to a tropical island and it's beautiful. That being said, I'm moving back to LA probably in like a few weeks.
Oh, you are.
But
Okay.
I
Wow.
was able to get out for 6 months, but I just have so many clients. I'm just gonna set myself up. I also was told that it's calmed down a bit.
Okay.
um, but I also my mindset is like I'm going to war, so I'm going to organize myself and prepare myself. And if I walk my dog at night, I'll have a taser, in case I get jumped. And
You just got
um,
to be in the right frame of
Yeah.
mind. Yeah.
For me, there was
yeah,
definitely things that, and I'm with you. There was definitely things that I loved about LA. Like even I didn't do like working on TV like as my primary thing, but when I was working on shows, what got me out of that is it was all one sided and it was political. And it was
yeah,
just the same thing over and over, tearing down statutes, this, that, you're getting booked at that. Whereas before I'd be like pedestrian, detective, concert goer, you name it, all different things. And then it was just one side. And I'm like, no, it's not for me. Me, it was just so expensive. I'm like, no,
yeah.
that was my reason for getting out of LA.
It's ridiculously expensive right now. I mean, in Florida, what I really like where I am, it just seems like people are more concentrated on quality of life. And I also found that in Texas. When I went to Texas, there was like all these people with beautiful houses, great families, eating well, and then also doctors. Like I was sick when I left LA. I had a stomach infection, and it would have cost me like I think 20 grand at least in LA.
Wow.
In Florida, I got basic insurance. I found an incredible doctor. He did an amazing surgery. Whole thing was 130 bucks. I was
Look
just
at that.
like
Oh my gosh.
I would still be in debt right now in LA. So, but I also, part of me, it sounds cheesy, but part of me, when I go back to LA, I want to create a group of really great people and maybe try to steer things back towards sanity in LA. Like,
Yeah, common sense. I think
There you
those people
go.
are there
Yeah.
waiting for you.
Yeah, I have
There is
friends
people
there.
like that out there. Yeah.
In fact, except for really small areas that are really heavily populated, the rest of the state is predominantly, let's say, leaning in your frame of thought, or
Yeah.
it's agreeing with you across the board pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually met a lot of people in California that um, really want people to be happy and live well. And we're really trying to go out of the way to be kind to one another. And which is funny because even when I was in LA, I have family in Florida, and the other side of the news was trying to convince them that everyone in LA was crazy. And I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like, so my thing is like we're people, and there are people in LA that are incredible artists, and they really want to create this network of artists that protect each other and inspire each other and are really great people. Like over the years, I've always been so loyal and so kind, and from all different backgrounds. And so when I go back, I want to start hosting dinners where we all get together. You know, we celebrate each other's wins. We talk about problems, and as a group, just sort of be there for each other. And hopefully, um, I have a theory that there aren't enough artists in the world. And so sometimes, like when I get attacked as an artist or I see other artists get jealous, I'm kind of like, we should be pushing each other. We should be making as much art as possible. And that's a little bit what I want in our little group of like, all of the actors, like, let's get all of them on shows,
That's smart. Yeah.
all the directors, let's get them all directing movies. And anyway, so hopefully we can do that in LA. And I guess also because I'm obsessive with my own projects. Like even though I'm an actor, I haven't really been going out and auditioning. I've just been writing and making my own projects because I also love directing, and I love being in the editing room and playing with the footage and coloring and sound and score. And one day, hopefully, I'll start doing projects that aren't my own. But until then, I'm not going to wait around. I've already got three more movies that I want to do. So after I do Americana, I got um, two westerns and a modern day one that's very sad but really beautiful, and then a serial killer movie. So
You know what I think is happening, and it's kind of represented what you're saying, and in your film too, is like we're trying to push the evil and corruption out of everything. And it's
yeah,
in everything. And it's
Yeah.
it's in our art. So we're using alternative measures across the board, whether it be alternatives to media or, companies, big companies, or government even, God, it's everywhere, Josh. What are we going to do?
well, I think it's two things. I think it's always been there, but now with social media and how information is passed, it's a lot more obvious
Hmm.
um, when things are
Like
not
we're
okay.
shining light on things, you mean?
Yeah. Like I remember I was like, God, everything's so terrible. And then I was watching some old documentaries of the 90s and I was like, shit, I didn't know all that stuff was happening. um, and like, like even Woodstock, I was like, Woodstock's awesome. And then I watched the documentary and I was like, fuck, man, a lot of rough shit happened at Woodstock. But I think I also have this weird theory. I think that technology wise, we've advanced so much, but I think as a people, we still are very basic. Like we have a long way to advance to learn how to get along with each other. And because I do think there's a lot of really great people in the world. Like social media sometimes will give you the impression, and the news too, that everything's bad and terrible. And then when you actually go out in the world and you meet and talk to people, it's not like that at all. It's like if you had one friend who was always a piece of shit and always told you terrible, negative stuff and made you feel shitty, that's the whole news. Like they make money. They don't make money off of sharing happiness and great things. They have to go
No.
seek out death and disaster. And so I think I've been learning over time that um, instead of the internet going in the direction of like, let's share all this great information and be more connected as humanity, it's like, let's have as many sensational clickbaits so that we can sell ads. And so there's a lot of just straight up lies being, or half truths. And so it's tough when I read something, I'm always like, I don't know if this is true or not. And then you have to kind of like research and figure out like, um, is this a straight up lie or is this an opinion? Or so it's tough. But I remember when I left LA, I definitely had points of views about the world, but then I was stopping in all these states and I started realizing like, holy fuck, there are so many great people that really like I was there. There's very few things that make me cry. Like I was raised to be very, you know, you don't show emotion. But one thing that always makes me cry is when I see people being kind to other people. Like if there's an accident and someone's pulling somebody out of a car or surprising a kid or going to hospital or like just people being great to each other. And I saw so much of that across America that it made me realize that what's being reported isn't actually the reality. The reality is there's a fuck ton of amazing people that are very sane and really care about each other. And then there's some, I believe, some people that maybe want us to be divided,
Sure.
and then maybe some assholes, you know. And but I also think a lot of the really great people in the world aren't on Twitter. You know what I mean? They're like living lives, taking care of their
There
families,
you
making
go. Yeah.
art. And then there's assholes that are like, I know I can rile people up on Twitter, so all day they're just sitting there and like, or Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so then going back to an art point of view, when I was wanting to make Americana, I think about like, what is the purpose of the story? Like, what impact can I make on the world? And um, one thing that's great about the story is I can make a movie where I can really work hard and make a high quality movie, but then I'm also constantly reminding people of this problem, human trafficking. And then for the movie, we actually signed on two big anti-trafficking charities. And so, and we're going to do a motorcycle run across America and raise awareness so that we're constantly shining a spotlight on this problem. Um, like to me, the fact that sex trafficking isn't like the number one news in the world at all times is mind-boggling to me. Because every time I learn about sex trafficking, it fucking infuriates me. Like I want to just get an army and go like destroy all traffickers, you know?
And being from
So this is
Arizona, I lost a couple of family members to narcotics, fentanyl, and they were really close to me. I mean, too close. And I thought to myself, there's only one people I want dead first. It's those fucking kid traffickers. I want them
yeah.
gone. I want them gone first. As much as I want revenge on those fentanyl people, or whatever like that, I just want those people who hurt
Well,
kids
I think
gone.
ironically those are the same people. The
Yeah.
fentanyl,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that'll be a good deal for me when they die. So and what's cool to me too is that, like we heard from, is it Benmio, right? Told us that all the Chris Pratt, that cast, they're all really patriotic, military guys who really want to defend freedom and stuff like that. And so I'm just waiting for somebody to really go in there. I mean, have you heard that any effort is made to go? I mean, why don't we just go kill those fucking sons of bitches right now?
well, it's funny. I think that when it comes to military standpoint, it's so I don't know if nice is the right word, but it's nice when you have an enemy that's defined that you can see. I think that's why Hollywood is so tough because you have everybody that's disguised as your friend, and you don't necessarily
Yeah.
know who wants to destroy you and who doesn't. And so sometimes the idea of being able to go to war with an identified enemy is nice because it's like I have something I can direct my training towards. But with trafficking, there's so many layers of manipulation and lies that um, it's tough. And this is just me. I'm not a professional, just from the basic research that I've learned. But there is a lot of people out there. There's like ex special forces that have charities, they raise money, and they're constantly tracking these people and,
Good.
taking them down. But I do I do kind of feel a little bit like sometimes it feels like a guy with a bucket who's, you know, pulling water out of the ocean. Like
Please, you know what?
we need a lot more.
First, I like to know that the younger people are awake and they understand what's going on, because I think a lot of the generation is so distracted, they're not going to get it. But if there's enough people like you out there, especially brilliant artists. Another thing I like is how you started out like kind of at zero, less than zero, and you are here now. That means you're not only talented, you're brilliant. And so really? I'm gonna keep an eye on you, pal.
This is the best podcast ever.
Bill Howard is a friend of ours, and yeah. Wait, and so
am I talking? There's a guy, Bill, I'm talking to, who's a charity guy. Is Bill Howard a charity guy?
No, he's a photographer.
And he's a photographer,
yeah,
and then
you know who we're talking about.
He led us to him, right? Right,
yeah.
Mark?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. Oh, that Bill. Sorry.
Yes, this Bill. Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah.
So he interviewed me. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he had a regular job. He was kind of, you reminded it kind of the same story. He was just like, I'm just gonna do this, and he goes into photography. The next thing you know, he's making movies, and it's like, documentaries and all this, and it's just great that this can happen in today's day and age. Where how long ago was this impossible? Not that long ago. Yeah.
He's such a great, he's so fun to work with, so positive. He's really good at his job, and that's the thing is like I came up with the idea. We shot it in April. We released it in September. I had my first real meeting with an investor this morning for the feature. But the movie is going to be very different than the short. And it takes going on podcasts, meeting people, and sort of recruiting them into the family in order to make it happen. Like me by myself, that's what's interesting. Like photography, I can get a camera and go out and do that. Movie making,
sure.
You need a fucking village of people that are like-minded with the same purpose. And if you don't have that, then you ain't making shit. And so I've been lucky that I met a lot of incredible people that push this forward. But even when it comes down to the movie, we're gonna probably need your guys' help to promote it. And
that's what we're counting on. We would love to be a part of it.
That's why we do this. Exactly.
Yeah, we would love that. That was my next thing I was going to say. But you're so resourceful, and you got that thing done at your high school. And it reminded me of Bill. They got this TikTok guy acting, and then they got into this courtroom and used real stab and everything to shoot it in their film. I'm like, shit, these guys are smart, man. And you're exactly the same, and I'm man, these guys are on to something. This is true art, Forget all that. I'm kind of sick of Hollywood. What's weird is I think the popularity of things like YouTube go beyond network TV. It's something they can't achieve. No. And they'll never be able to achieve real content and real entertainment, because I just think YouTube makes me laugh like network TV almost never. Maybe once in a blue moon, but man. And I'm just glad smart people like you are in the forefront and doing that. I don't want a bunch of crazies getting a hold of this wonderful thing and just letting those horrific things continue in the world, Josh. And man, thank you for making Americana first, because it hit hard. I was tears 10 minutes in. I was like,
that's awesome.
Oh my God, this is hurting me. And I was like, oh, it's over. No, I need more. So don't stop. Don't stop, please. No, I loved it.
Well,
I loved it.
I think everybody wants good content. So I think if you make good content, people are going to watch it. Like the Terminal List. I remember it was getting attacked, and so I watched it. I fucking watched that show 3 times in a row. It was so good.
I watched it in one day. I watched all 8. I blew off everything. I shut my phone off. I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, and I heard that there was going to be a second season. I'm like, oh my
I hope
goodness.
so.
There is.
Said.
Oh yeah.
Benio said they
one
were
of the
doing
guys
it.
that was in one of the episodes said, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fuck
yeah.
I weirdly for training for Americana, I went to a gun range. I think it's invite only. It's called Tehran Tactical. It's where they train Keanu Reeves for John Wick, and they're like the top in the world. So they were running me through this course, and there was this guy there named Jack Carr, and I was like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "I'm an author, and I'm ex Steel or whatever." And I'm like, "Cool," and he was rad. And then months later, I saw that he's the fucking creator of Terminal List. He wrote.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I was like,
"Weird about you, Josh? You seem like someone who's already got limitless resources and millions of dollars." But I know all these people, and you're throwing out these names. And I'm like, it's only probably a couple more hours, and someone's just gonna go, well, just give this kid anything he wants. I mean, your vision is just so clear, and you know so many people. Wow, please just let us, let us help you in any way we can, because you are a treat to talk to. And dude, I would be proud to be involved.
Podcast. So much. Oh, I don't know if I could cuss.
No, you're fine. You're good.
But any way we've had you here for an hour. How do you want to put a cap on this whole thing, Josh?
So I just started my own podcast. It's called the Joshua Schultz Podcast.
Yeah, send us a link. We'll add it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Everybody get over there and subscribe.
Yeah, and then when this is out, send it to me. I'd love to promote it. So
we will. Yeah, we're
all the way.
Definitely.
And how can everyone watch Americana? Everybody, you're gonna love this.
We'll put it in the description.
Oh yeah, of course.
Perfect.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. All right, so get over. Everybody, go discover
so
Josh
much.
like we did, and thanks bro, for coming.
All
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so.
If you enjoyed this podcast episode, click on this playlist to watch even more. And as always, thank you so much for watching.